celebrating 20 years of possibility.
I'm Lynn Petr, and I believe anything is possible.
Welcome to Anything is Possible. These are great stories about great people whose lives prove that anything is possible. My name is Halloran Hilton Hill. My guest today is Lynn Petr. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I said I was going to read you something.
Yeah, you did.
We were having a conversation before we started this, and you said something that just connected with me. I received an award recently, and they interviewed me about this award, and they were asking me, it was the James A. Haslam Leadership Award from the Chamber. And this is what I said, because this is where I want to start with us. I said, I'm humbled, I'm amazed, I'm grateful. Jim Haslam is a friend, a mentor, and an early adopter. His launch pad, yes, was the first time we met, and it transformed everything. Sometimes in life, you're one yes away from believing in your possibility. The right yes from the right person in the right way helps you realize that future yeses are possible.
Amen. That's beautiful.
Is that not?
That's perfect.
So when we were talking, we talked about 7th grade, because you are one of the most tenacious, bold people that I've met. You remind me in many ways of Pat Summitt.
Oh, well, okay.
She was our first guest. When you set your mind to do something, no is a comma, not a period.
Pretty much.
You said you and your sister, I think you said, we're talking about where does this come from? Because I think that stubbornness, tenacity, whatever you want to call it, it's active faith, right? And
well,
you
it's
said,
being driven.
Yeah.
I mean, you want something bad enough.
Right, and you believe
Yeah.
that it's possible. Mm-hmm. So you said 7th grade. What happens in 7th grade to Lynn Petr?
I wanted a horse, something fierce.
You wanted a horse.
A horse, yeah. All my life I've been a horse person without a horse. But we were military. I was the youngest of 4 kids. So we traveled all over. When Dad retired and we moved to Tennessee, we were laying down roots, and it was like, oh, a horse. And Dad's, I'm not buying you a horse, not buying you a horse. If you get a horse, you get it yourself. Of course, he thought that was a
no.
Yeah, no. And I'm sitting there thinking, challenge accepted. So he said, but you would have to buy it, care for it, board it, all the money. And I've babysat since I was 4th grade, so I was saving my pennies, and had my little stash going. And we lived in a subdivision, but there was a driveway that went across from my house into this beautiful farm, and it was Dr. Duncan's farm. And I was going, that's where I need to board my pony that I was going to buy. And so one day I went over and I knocked on his door, and Mrs. Duncan answers the door, and I said, can I speak to Dr. Duncan? And she's kind of going, okay. And so she lets me in, and he's sitting there reading his newspaper in front of the fire. And she goes, you have a visitor. And he peels down the corner of the paper and peeks and puts the paper back up and then goes, like, who's this kid and what is she doing in my living room? And I said, he said, what can I do for you? And I said, I'd like to make you a proposition. And he's going, okay. And I said, I want to purchase a horse, and I need a place to board it, and you're very close and convenient, but you also have a pony out in your field that needs a lot of love and attention, and I will gladly do that. The other horses are fine, but your barn's a mess, and I'll clean up your whole barn too while I'm at it. And he's sitting there, and he's thinking, and then he says, and how much are you going to pay me a month to do this? And I said, $10. And he goes, the first time you miss a payment, the pony's gone. We shook hands, and I walked out the door, and it was like, okay, that's good. And then I went back to Dad going, now let's go see about me getting a pony. And then he was like, oh no. And so I looked, the ads and everything. And
how much had you saved up?
Well, the pony that we went to look at was $35. This was in the 70s, early 70s. Yeah. And I finally convinced Dad to let me go look at it. And so we go to look at this pony, and it is flying around the field, just gorgeous. And Dad's going, it's a beautiful pony. And I'm going, they can't catch it. This isn't how you buy an animal. But my parents know nothing about horses. I'm the one who has read every book in the library, to where the librarian said you can no longer check out horse books until you check out other books. But I had an education of sorts. It just wasn't hands-on. And so we finally did catch the pony, and I started counting out my money to the man. We were on the tailgate of the car, and I had a $5 bill and some ones, and then I started out with stacks of quarters. And the guy's sitting there, and he looks at Dad like, and he's going, yeah. And so I get part way done, and it was all in a sock. And he grabs the sock, and he says, I trust you. And it was like, I wanted to count out that money. I had earned that money. I really wanted to count out every penny. And so I was like, well, okay, that works.
Possibility powered by Pilot Flying J, Covenant Health, Home Federal, and the Knoxville News Sentinel. Coming up,
we have a veterans piece working with individuals that have PTSD or physical challenges due to their service to their country.
Horses are all about energy, aren't they?
They are. They
Their
sense
antennae
it.
are just, you can't fake who you are or how you are in front of a horse, can you?
Not at all. Not at all. They see right through. Words don't mean anything. It's the body language that you're exuding and your energy, yeah.
Why horses?
That's a really good question. I came out of the womb with horses. I had a hobby horse when I was before first grade that I would ruin clothing with by watering him with a felt cowboy hat and pulling up grass from the yard. And there was just, I don't know. It's just, horse people, true horse people, it's just innate. They're part of your DNA.
What's interesting is that along your journey, you found a way to take your two driving passions, but I would call them callings.
Yes.
Healing and horses, and you put them together.
Well, at the time I wasn't thinking of it as healing as much as teaching. I was a camp counselor, and I love doing that. I love being outside. I love working with kids and that. And so there's another yes that came through was, it was the final week of camp, and all the kids were leaving, and for some reason I started crying, and it was like, oh, where's this coming from? And there was a guy standing next to me who happened to be the superintendent of schools, because this was a Knox County Schools conservation camp, and I said, I'm so sorry. And he said, why are you sorry? And I said, well, because I'm crying. And he said, well, I know why you're crying. And I look at him like, well, you do? And enlighten. And he said, you're destined to be a teacher. And it was like, he's absolutely right. And from that one little sentence, that put my trajectory headed into college of, I was going to be a teacher.
Tell me about STAR.
STAR is a therapeutic writing program that was my master's thesis project many years in the workings. We work with children and adults with disabilities, teaching them to ride, which is the therapeutic riding piece. We have a veterans piece working with individuals that have PTSD or physical challenges due to their service to their country. We work with Alzheimer's and memory care individuals that need just a re-shot of life, a chance to go back to who they were and relive some moments. And then we have a Changing Strides program, which is working with adjudicated youth and women in rehab. Right now it's women in rehab, but we're branching out into other rehab facilities and individuals. So it's growing. It started as one thing, and as the community needs have popped up, then we have made adjustments and have grown too.
I've been out and seen some of your work. The word that comes to mind is magic. I've seen what happens when I've seen what happens to their ability and their possibilities when this relationship happens. I've seen it. I've seen, you know it, you knew it, they didn't know it. And I don't know what it is about horses and people and when they come together and that relationship forms, but I've seen that magic happen. When you described this early on, when you were trying to do this as a thesis and then you said this could be done, people were like, you gotta be out of your mind. You gotta be cuckoo for, let's just talk liability.
Right.
Right. Forget everything else. So you're gonna do therapy with horses, with people that have disabilities or different abilities. Yeah, right.
No one's going to let you put handicapped kids around horses, you know. And this was when I came back to college, what I wanted to do, and I was seeking help. I was seeking that yes, and I would pitch it to every single person in the education building, and to a man or woman, they would say, "Oh, this is just ridiculous. You idealistic college students need to get your head out of the clouds, your feet on the ground. You're here to get a job. You're not here to be thinking about all the." And I'm sitting there going, this is the place to think about other things, supposedly, and it was a shame, but they hadn't witnessed what I had witnessed, and in all fairness, if you looked at it from their perspective, it did make sense. But I had one professor, and I didn't know who he was. I knocked on the door, I pitched the idea, and he goes, well, I've heard talking to rocks could be beneficial, so I don't know why this wouldn't be.
He fed the possibility.
Yes, he did.
But you told me a story that when you were doing the trial, when you're trying to get this off the ground, they gave you a window to prove it, and a superintendent or someone saw the magic, and they were like, whoa. Yeah. What happened?
Well, I had gone to, when I graduated with a degree in special ed and this whole concept of what I wanted to do with it, I went to all the heads of special ed in the surrounding counties. And this was back when we had schools that were all special schools before mainstreaming. And to a person, they would laugh me out of the office. This is ridiculous, liability, you know, all these reasons why it could not work. And the very last one was Steve Brody from Anderson County. And I went in and pitched it, and he clicks on his intercom, and he I don't know who it was, and he said, I want you to come in and listen to this ridiculous idea this little girl has. And it was just like, oh, you know, it's like, number one, I'm not a little girl, I just graduated from college. And so it was just kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And so I just slammed my book shut, and I threw out my finger, which I should never have done, but I went, look, this is gonna be good. I'm offering it to you, and you're gonna totally miss the boat. And then I stomped off and thought, well, there goes all my employment options with Knox, Blunt, Roan, Anderson. But he came after me, and he said, I'll give you 1 hour to show me what you can do. And then it was oh my gosh, what can I do, because I don't have a program. So he brought 6 children out from Daniel Arthur Special School, and my mother was my volunteer, and Gypsy, the mare that I had purchased years ago was the horse. And we did stuff, and I got one child up and everything, and then in exactly an hour he was there. Okay, everyone back in the bus, we're ready to go. And it was like, you know, at least he gave me the opportunity. He listened, and he gave me a chance. And so they piled back in the van, and there's a gravel stretch of Mom and Dad's driveway before it becomes asphalt. And in that 20 feet, there goes the van, and then suddenly the wheels just screech to a halt, and he sticks his head out the window and says, be in my office Monday morning, and then drives away. And I'm sitting there going, what? Well, come to find out, one of the students in the bus was nonverbal on the autism spectrum. And he had said in that space of time, he said, horses don't like dead grass, they like green grass. A whole sentence out of a nonverbal child that made sense, and this man knew it. And, and that's why the brakes came on, and it was like, okay, there's something to this, let's, you know, explore it further.
Do you realize you realize how powerful the work you do is.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you have such fervor, because you've seen that happen. But do you realize, as an agent of possibility, why it was so important that God hardwired you with a faithful stubbornness as opposed to a selfish stubbornness? There's a difference.
Yeah.
There's a difference when you believe in something for something and you just believe in something because you want something. But your belief that it was possible for people who may be marginalized or have different abilities to see new possibilities,
Yeah.
because of the magic that happens, because the sensory experience of being around horses is a whole other, it's a spiritual dimension I can't even describe. You know it. But if you hadn't been, and if you don't continue to be faithfully stubborn, you don't create possibilities for other people.
Yeah.
It's not about you.
No.
Now you're working with inner city kids, and the same thing's happening for them.
Boy, I hope so. We're really trying to develop our program now that we have the second site in Knox County that's so close to downtown. We're branching out and wanting to do more. We've got a grant in to work with the students at Vine to see if we can't develop some of this fortitude and this integrity and to become strong within, so they can resist the external pressures that will hit them when they get into high school. And it's going to work. It's going to be good, and it's going to work.
So tell me what horses have taught you about possibility.
To be honest. You have to be honest. They, like you said, they read through you. That beauty is only skin deep, and so is intention. People can come in with all this false bravado, and I want to do this, and I'll do this for you, and it's like, cut down to the chase. What really do you want? Is it for you, or is it for others? And that's a really important piece, is that when people come and want to work with us, they do have to have the right bottom line, and the bottom line can't be money. This isn't about money. This is about human elements and making others' lives better. And so the horses are very clear. They're very in the moment, and they don't worry about the past, and they don't look to the future. It's like who you are right now, right here, right in front of me. Who are you, and what is it that you need or want? And they're so giving, unselfishly giving animals.
What has this work done for you?
Well, it's been a career. It's enabled me to hire other people who have similar passions, and their parents said the same thing to them, going, "Is that really a job?" And you're going, "Yeah, it is," and they do get paid. We have 11 full-time staff members and 7 part-time, and it is a viable job, and it is a viable industry, and so that's important to me, in that it means it will carry on beyond me, that STAR is its own entity, and there's enough people that will hold it up and support it when I step away. And then the fact that we have another site that was donated to us out of the blue via a text message, or an email, excuse me. "Lynn, would you like the farm?" And you're just going, who does that? Seriously, and it's a beautiful 47-acre farm in South Knoxville that we have been able to chip away at making it what it needs to be. We're in the middle of a capital campaign now to get it where it really needs to be, but the opportunity was there. I mean, it was just put in my lap.
I think of all the people that will have new levels of possibility in their life because of the work that you do, and I'm grateful for that. How can people watching right now support you as you move forward?
Well, I just mentioned we're doing a capital campaign, so there's a lot of ways that people can contribute financially, of course, but there's a lot of in-kind stuff. It's a lot of construction and things like that. So if they have an affinity and have, you know, anything from flooring to paint to insulation to windows, I mean, it's going to be, it's a big project. And then we have sponsorships of the riders. A lot of our riders can't afford to pay for the service, and we don't ever want money to be an issue. None of our veterans pay. We made a decision early on that they had pretty much paid enough, and so we're not going to charge them. But there is a cost. Horses are not cheap to keep, and we try to do our best. We put up our own hay, we compost the manure and sell it, and we really try to be good stewards of our resources, but nonetheless, there is a financial piece to it all. Volunteering in our therapeutic riding, sometimes it's 3 volunteers for 1 student to have that experience. It takes 3 other people giving up their time to come out and enable that to happen. And when you have 4 in a class, that's a lot of people. And so it does take a lot of community effort to bolster this and make it successful.
Well, we want to help you do that. On your screen here, you should see a link to their website. And thank you for being the person that you are and for being a person of possibility that unlocks possibility in others. You're a star. Thank you for being on Anything Is Possible.
Hey, thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it, Howard.